How do we keep the Sabbath day holy? You know, a lot of sincere, loving Christians, they're not aware of the Bible Sabbath, which is actually Friday sunset to Saturday sunset. And I know that's new for some of you. Some people might be saying, whoa, I thought Sunday was the Sabbath. You know, and I understand. I always thought that myself. But when I did some Bible studies, I realized that the Sabbath is sunset Friday to sunset Saturday, which is the seventh day of the week. In fact, if you look at history, there was actually a sinister plot to change God's Sabbath from the seventh day to the first day of the week. And that was actually prophesied in the Bible. Daniel says, speaking of the Antichrist power, that it would think to change times and law. And so that's a whole story behind that. I encourage you to watch the video on our channel called Who Changed the Sabbath? We read in Isaiah that we are to call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord, not doing our own pleasure. All right, so a couple things we learn from that. First of all, the Sabbath should be a delight. It shouldn't be drudgery like, oh man, the Sabbath is here, I need to stop having fun. No, the Sabbath is a sacred day set apart by God for you and I. All right, it's like a date with the God of the universe. It's something we look forward to. It's something we should treasure. And so a great thing to do is when the sun is setting on Friday, you know, make it special. Have maybe some candles, or you don't have to have candles, but have a special prayer. Maybe have a little worship service with some singing of hymns, maybe a short Bible study, something that you are welcoming the Sabbath in. All right. Now, the Sabbath commandment, this is actually one of the 10 commandments. It's the fourth commandment. We read of that in Exodus 28 through 11. And if you read the Sabbath commandment, it actually tells us to remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. And so we learn that we are not to do our regular work on the Sabbath. And so if you have a job, with the exception of something like certain doctors or policemen or firemen, these are jobs that are required because they are a public service. And Jesus said, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath day. And so there's certain positions that they have to be done. You know, pastors, they preach on the Sabbath. All right, so if you're a doctor and you have emergency work to do in that hospital, you know, saving lives or what have you, that is a job that can be done on the Sabbath. But besides those emergency help type professions, we should not be working on the Sabbath. That includes any kind of jobs besides the type that I mentioned. That includes housework, working out or lifting with weights, that kind of thing. Anything that's for our benefit that we are working. It's a day of rest. All right. So with that being said, there are many wonderful things to do on the Sabbath. And let me give you a few of those ideas right now. Number one, it's the day we are to worship God at church. You know, that was Jesus' example. The Bible says that Jesus went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day to preach, as his custom was. That was his regular practice. The apostles, throughout the book of Acts, they worshiped, they preached on the Sabbath day. And so going to church on the Sabbath is a wonderful activity. Doing Bible studies. If you have a Hope Through Prophecy video that you want to get caught up on, that's a good day to do it. Because my videos are spiritual in nature, they're not about secular things, and so that would be a wholesome activity to do on the Sabbath. Walking in nature. I love taking nature walks on the Sabbath day. You have to remember the Sabbath is a memorial or a reminder of God's creation. And so what better day than to spend time with God in nature? A day to just reflect on his creative power and thank God you made all of this. So wonderful activity to do on the Sabbath. Meeting with friends to, have a meal together. Now it's important though that we guard our minds, because not only are we to abstain from working on the Sabbath, but our mind should not be on secular, regular, everyday things like the ball game. We should have our minds on spiritual things on the Sabbath. And those are some ideas. There might be more, Feel free to put in the chat or the comments below if you can think of other great Sabbath activities. All right, so thank you for that question.
If this